learning to live in a critical situation. Slowly, Zubair began to wake up. He was very, very tired. He opened his eyes and looked around. All he could see was muddy water, but a little peaceful now. All night, it had been gushing wildly, destroying everything that came in its way. He was still lying on the log which he and his mother had held together last night. The log, to which Zubair had clung all night, was bumping against a small tract of land now. Zubair stretched his numb limbs and waded to the tract of land. He was exhausted. He lay down on his bare back and closed his eyes. Tears began to fall from the sides of his eyes and started collecting in his ears. With his eyes closed, he could clearly see the picture of his mother's hand slipping from his grip. He wanted to shout, but he could not. It was dark and the water was moving so fast that he could not do anything but hold the log tightly. She was taken away by the flowing water. He quickly opened his eyes. He could not bear seeing that picture in his mind again and again. Suddenly, he got up, cupped his hands around his mouth, and yelled at the top of his voice, "Amma, Amma." There was no reply. He sat down on the ground, put his head between his knees and cried his heart out for his mother, who was the only relative he had in this whole world. Exhausted, he fell asleep once again. Voices of people woke him up. He opened his eyes to find himself on the same tract of land. In the dim light of the setting sun, he could see soldiers sailing in a boat on the somewhat still water. They were coming towards him. He stared at them without moving. He was so sad and tired that he did not realize that the soldiers were coming to save him. The soldiers took him to a relief camp. The camp provided shelter, food and medicines for the hundreds of flood victims. He moved around the camp like a ghost. His head was full of questions. Why do they let this happen every year? Why don't they have a plan? Can we do something ourselves to save other young boys from becoming orphans? He discussed this with some of the relief workers, but they were so busy and tired that they did not have time to answer his questions. Finally, a young relief worker listened to him and understood what he was saying. Together, they planned to train the victims to be more cautious next time. They worked out some points that could help people remain safe in such calamities. Together, they wrote the points on large white bed sheets. After this, they gathered a group of people and told them about ensuring safety during floods. Here are some of the points that they shared with the people. Before a flood. 1. Always listen to the radio or television for flood information. 2. Be prepared. Pack a bag with important items in case you need to evacuate your home. 3. If the government tells you to evacuate, do so immediately. 4. If a flood is expected, move immediately to higher ground. 5. Turn off and disconnect all electrical things. During a flood. 1. If you have to walk in water, try to walk where the water is not flowing. As little as 6 inches, 15 centimeters, of flowing water can make you fall. 2. Use a stick to check the firmness of the ground in front of you. 3. Hold the hands of children and old and weak people when walking in water. 4. Only carry the most important things when leaving your house during a flood. 5. Do not touch electrical things if you are wet or standing in water. After a flood. 1. Return home only when you are told that it is safe. 2. Wash and clean everything in your house. 3. Drink water that is safe to drink. 4. Stay away from fallen electric lines, and report them to the power company. 5. Avoid bathing or walking in floodwater. At night, Zubair spread his quilted mattress on the floor and lay down on it. He closed his eyes expecting the nightmare of his mother drowning, but this did not happen. In his dream he saw his mother, but she was wearing a pure white shower suit. She had covered her white hair with a fine, white muslin dupatta. Her long dupatta flew behind her as if trying to reach the sky. Her eyes glittered like diamonds and her wrinkle-free skin glowed in the faint light. She looked at him, smiling sweetly, and said, "You did a great job. Keep it up. God helps those who help themselves." When he woke up in the morning, he was feeling very fresh and energetic.